This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com. Invasion from 2001. Just to add some context to where we are at this point in 2001, we're on the heels of the biggest WrestleMania of all time, WrestleMania 17. But sadly, that's where we turn Steve Austin heel. The Rock goes off to make a movie, and the business starts to hit the skids until this pay-per-view. The show we're talking about today is the most successful non-WrestleMania pay-per-view ever for the World Wrestling Federation, which really, when you think about it, is pretty remarkable. And I know people like to poke fun at the Invasion angle and talk about how it was bungled and, oh, what could have been. But man, fans were bought in for this pay-per-view, and it was a huge success financially.
Yeah, it was big. It's surprisingly good. I think we all thought it might be solid, let's say. But it was more than solid. It was outstanding. And it was, I think, the reason that people wanted to see something new is a new concept in that respect, where two brands are kind of dueling. So it was a successful show. And I remember it fondly, but you know, you or I, either one can't dwell on what could have been, what should have been, how could we follow up, could we have done better? You know, the bottom line is always still going to be the fact that, you know, we didn't have all the players.
Right.
And somebody's going to say, well, why didn't you get them? Because they were under contract, making a lot of money.
To do nothing.
They were able to heal their wounds. None of them were spring chickens. They wanted to, they had that mailbox money coming in, which is the very best kind. So I was pleasantly surprised it did so well. It was a fun show to broadcast too.
Well, and we're going to get into the show, but I think what most fans are really interested in is what could have been. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit before we get going. There was talk when this whole angle started that perhaps Raw was going to become, it's a pretty classic moment. You've got the WWF, WCW, and ECW guys all there at the same time. The glass breaks and Stone Cold comes out to one of the biggest pops ever. It's a pretty special moment. It feels like a big moment. And fans at home agree, and they're voting with their wallet. Again, WrestleMania set every record there was for pay-per-view, for gates, et cetera, et cetera. But in the subsequent months, it's down, down, down. They don't want to see Steve Austin as a heel, but now this is so exciting. I mean, what we've seen on the cover of these after magazines for decades, the hypotheticals, the dream matches, the what ifs, it's going to happen. And the result is a ton of folks, like 770,000 people buy this pay-per-view. Did you know on that go home edition, hey, shit, man, maybe we'll pull the nose up on this thing. This is hot shit.
Well, I remember that the crowd bought it, so the studio audience, so to speak, was firmly sold. And so you think, well, there's an interest here,
right?
These fans here are in. That's all that is. Conrad is, and why a lot of promotions always their lifeblood was the live events. And I just felt like, well, God, this live event here, these are people on fire. There's renewed interest because there's new faces that create new matches. And as you mentioned earlier, one of my old cliches or whatever you want to call them, fans like new.
Yeah.
And so we were giving them new. And I think that we underestimated how much collectively that these guys are over. And of course we saw how much they were over with 700,000 plus buys. It's a big money maker.
Oh yeah. So let's talk about something that didn't happen, but almost happened or could have. Gave it 53.6% thumbs up, 21.3% thumbs down, and 25.1% thumbs in the middle. The show drew 17,019 fans. The gate is an incredible $848,060 plus another 146,000 in merch. So it's a big day for the company, but critically it's a mixed bag. Do you remember feeling like when you went into this show that this was not your typical quote unquote B pay-per-view show. I call it a B show because it's not WrestleMania. It's not SummerSlam. It's not Royal Rumble. It's not one of your tentpole events. You know, in a prior world, well, I guess a couple years prior to this would have been an in your house. So it would have been a 2-hour show at a smaller price, and it probably just would have built towards SummerSlam. But now it feels like we've created a mega event just based on the story and angle. And there's a lot of buzz, way more than there would normally be for a July pay-per-view.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the show got, the theme of the show, the reason it was booked was a winner, but we had too many gimmick matches. And this WCW, who's going to, who over this, who's going to, we're going to talk about here in a second. I forgot about Earl Hebner wrestling Nick Patrick,
right,
in a battle of referees. How can that be good? And I love both those guys. They're both really good referees, not so great as wrestlers.
right.
And I don't know. I think that hurt us a little bit there. I think we went a little bit too gimmicky on it, and not to anybody's, to anybody's betterment, quite frankly.
Well, here we go. Match number 1. It's Edge and Christian taking on Lance Storm and Mike Awesome and the WWE.
You gotta get excited about saving people all those dollars. They can limousine ride and jet fly now with that extra cash.
And they can style and profile with a quick 10-minute phone call right now to 425-0105.
That's 425-0105. Woo!
SaveWithConrad.com. Through these after magazines, what would happen if Hulk Hogan wrestled Ric Flair? What would happen if The Undertaker wrestled Sting? What would happen if Goldberg wrestled Stone Cold? We don't get any of those matches. Instead, we get this main event, and fans were excited. I mean, it set an all-time pay-per-view record for a non-WrestleMania show. Think about that. This beat every SummerSlam. This beat every Royal Rumble. This beat every Survivor Series. I mean, second only to WrestleMania. This is it. And they left, and they never came back, and the invasion angle continued, but no one cared.
No.
In hindsight, what could we have done differently on this show, if anything, Jim, to stretch this thing out and give this angle new life and new legs?
Oh God, I don't know. There's a million probably right answers, probably a million wrong answers, Conrad. You can't have a card full of cold matches. For sure. You gotta have matches or talents on these matches that people have made a confirmed and established emotional investment within. We didn't do that. The Austin turn would never happen if I'd have been booking it, because I was going to like you said earlier, and it's right. We had a door. The door was open to get the hell out of that scenario.
Yeah. Right.
But we still going to try it one more time. Let's keep trying it. It's just never, it didn't work. Wasn't ever going to work. So, and that's a shame. But the other aspect of it are things that were out of our control. Austin getting injured, Angle getting injured, Benoit getting injured, among others. And I'm sure there are other guys. Brock in his movie career, which you can't blame him for that. I mean, hell, look what that's got him. I think last year he made $85 million. I'd say he made the right call.
He did okay.
Yeah. So things happened, and these were not just average guys we were losing. These are main event level established stars. And so unless you can wave a magic wand and get all these guys healthy and available, there's not a whole hell of a lot you could do. But the issue is to take a step or two backwards. Could the company have done more to get heels ready for Steve, get them red hot, white hot, and coming for Austin? Yes, definitely. So but other than that, man, the Austin turn was wrong, and people lost interest in us. Their savior, their John Wayne, if you will, no longer was playing that role.
I'm curious from your perspective, since you do have Paul Heyman running around representing ECW, do you think fans would have gotten with this a little more if Bischoff was running around as the WCW mouthpiece, or did that not really matter in the scheme of things?
I don't think it would have trumped the Austin scenario.
Of course not.
I don't think it would have trumped the fact that we didn't have anybody ready for Steve, and which he saw the writing on the wall.
I just think, especially with the Steve dynamic, if Bischoff is there, you could have turned the whole big thing with the whole Steve Austin, Eric Bischoff. Hey, I fired your ass type.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Eric would have played his role out perfectly.
Right.
Would he have been better than Heyman? Well, they're different characters,
Of course.
but they're both talented guys. And if based on what you're saying, and I don't disagree with actually, the fact that Eric could have played that Austin card. I FedEx your ass a letter that you're fired.
Yeah.
And so, and what are you going to do about it? Nothing. Or whatever. And that Eric could pull that off like a champion. So that's another way of looking at it. Again, it's frustrating to look back at it 20 something years ago, Connie. But dadgum, man, it's easy to figure out problems in when they're in hindsight. I could do a lot of things in my life over if I had the benefit of hindsight, and would have been made better decisions in a lot of areas. But man, oh man, he's just that would have been interesting. But again, we can't do anything about it but be frustrated about it again and say, well, I wish we'd have done this, we should have done that. Because at the end of the day, it seems as if it worked out for everybody pretty good. I mean, the monies came in, the being a publicly traded company for WWE, et cetera. At the end of the day, they financially, they ended up well. But in this 2001 interlude, the creative was not at its all-time best.
Let me ask Jim, do you think that because a lot of people would argue, hey, if you don't have Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.